Hello, I'm Matt, and welcome to This Week at the Movies. We have quite a packed episode. There are a lot of films out this first week in August. Yes, things releasing on August 1st. One of these releases came out actually a couple days ahead, but most of these, I have three films that are in theaters as of yesterday, Friday, August 1st. A couple of streaming films that I'm going to be looking at. The first of those is The Naked Gun, and this one, the big comedy release of the week and probably of the summer. This is kind of a legacy sequel reboot of the franchise The Naked Gun, starring Leslie Nielsen from the Files of Police Squad. There were three original films: The Naked Gun, The Naked Gun 2.5, The Naked Gun 33 and a third. Now we get a new one, this one coming from director Akiva Schaffer, who is part of the Lonely Island team. Among the producers, Seth MacFarlane. This one starring Liam Neeson, who plays Frank Drebin Jr., the son of Leslie Nielsen's character from the original. This has Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser, Danny Houston in kind of the villain role. And you know what? This is in a lot of the style of that original set of films. There's a lot of quick jokes. There's a lot of sight gags. There's a lot of fun cultural references. There are some great winking nods to the original. There are a lot of interesting observations about today. I have enjoyed Neeson in the past in comedies, especially in some comedies that he's done with Seth MacFarlane, who is a producer here. Did not work on the script, but probably has some influence in this project. I really enjoyed Pamela Anderson. She has had a great late career kind of renaissance. Last year, we saw her in a very fascinating and fantastic dramatic role in The Last Showgirl. This is something completely different, comedic. She and Neeson play off each other very well. It was pretty funny all the way throughout. I'm giving this one a solid thumbs up. I had a lot of fun with this. You know, it's a crisp 85 minutes with full credits, but it's probably like only about 77 minutes before you actually hit the credits, and they have some sequences in the credits. They have some loving tributes to the original in the credits. I had a good time. I laughed. This is the kind of broad comedies that we just don't get a lot of nowadays. And if you are somebody who grew up in the 90s like I did, you're probably used to films like this. Seeing this kind of comedy, we probably haven't had things that are goofy in this kind of nature since the Scary Movie series petered out, and it's coming back, so that'll be interesting to see. But I really enjoyed the cast here. I enjoyed the reboot here. I had a lot of fun with this one. I think this is something you will enjoy in theaters. But you know what? If that kind of broad comedy isn't your thing and you're looking for more of a date night vibe, at least that's how they're trying to sell this movie. The other big release of the weekend is the movie Together. This is a new wave horror film. It made a debut at the Sundance Film Festival in January, and now is making its way into theaters. This one is definitely striking. It is not the same kind of vibe as The Naked Gun. It comes from writer-director Michael Shanks. It focuses on a couple, Tim and Millie, played by Dave Franco and Allison Brie. They move from the city out into the suburbs because Millie's gotten a job and Tim is kind of struggling to find himself a little bit, his music career flatlining a little bit. So he's trying to figure out some things, figure out how that's going to work. They go on a hike, which, you know what? My wife would say never go on a hike, never go out in nature. And maybe things like this are the reason why. They stumble into a cave, they get trapped down there, they make the cardinal rule of all films and TV shows: they drink some water down there, and then some weird stuff starts happening to them. This is a weird kind of body horror type project. It has some comedy at times, some dark comedy, but there are a lot of tension, a lot of chills and thrills. I thought Brie and Franco were really good here. Both of them give great performances. They are great together. This was a weird film. It's definitely deeply unsettling at times, but it was also engaging in kind of a quirky, weird, and delightful way. I had a good time with this. I am giving it a full thumbs up as well. it could not be any different tonally, vibe wise than The Naked Gun, but two very interesting films that deliver on the premise of what they are trying to give you. I had a good time watching together, which sounds a little weird given the subject matter and that it's a little bit of a scarier film, but I thought they did a nice job putting that one together. Another smaller release that's out in theaters this week is She Rides Shotgun. This one finds Taron Egerton as a father who is out of prison but not out of trouble, and he goes and picks up his daughter because it turns out that he has made some powerful enemies that are hunting her down. Daughter is played by Anna Sophia Heger. So he and Polly set out on the road trying to get away, but they have to deal with a lot of things, including an aggressive detective played by Rob Yang and a corrupt sheriff played by John Carroll Lynch. Can they, come through it all? Okay. This one has an interesting tone, an interesting vibe. It comes from director Nick Rowland, and I wasn't sure what to expect from this one when I first fired it up, but I really was taken with the opening. There's a little bit of mystery at the beginning. You're not sure exactly who or what Egerton's character is running from, who or what he may have done to get there, but the interactions between him and Polly are really good. I thought Hager does a nice job as an actress, a younger actress in this role. There were some interesting sequences. It's an interesting journey. It has kind of a bit of a downer conclusion, as these kind of movies often do, but there was a lot that I liked about this. It was a little bit of a surprise. I'm giving this one a mild thumbs up. Probably not my favorite film of the weekend, but I thought there were some strong performances. I thought some of the things they did with this were really interesting, and I had a pretty good time watching it. It is out in theaters. It's a more limited release than the other two movies I talked about, but it is in most theaters out right now if you're looking for something a little bit different. This is a good showcase for Egerton. He is having quite a summer. He is currently the lead of a streaming series on Apple TV called Smoke, which has just aired yesterday, the 7th of 9 episodes. That one getting very interesting too. So if you want to see him play some pretty intense characters, this has been a good summer for that. Well, let's say you didn't want to take a trip to the actual theater. Are there any things you can watch at home? Turns out there are a couple of new films that dropped on streaming. The first of those, a Netflix romance called My Oxford Year. And Sophia Carson seems to have settled into a little groove, making some of these romance and life films for Netflix. Earlier this year, she was in The Life List, which is a film that I actually liked. I liked it probably a little bit more than most, but this one finds her as a woman who has a job offer but wants to go spend a year abroad studying at Oxford. There, at first, she clashes with the graduate student who is the teacher in her class. His name is Jamie, played by Corey Michael Reist. I'm not entirely sure, but he is pictured there. But eventually, as you might guess, it moves from tension to sparks flying. There are some twists in this story that make it pretty interesting and engaging. But basically, I'm down. If Netflix just wants to give me a Sophia Carson romance movie 2 or 3 times a year, that seems to work for me. I really enjoyed The Life List. I enjoyed this one as well. I'm giving it a mild thumbs up. Again, not like my most favorite film of the week, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. It delivers on what you're expecting. Netflix has really moved into that range where they have taken and latched onto the Hallmark formula, which has been very successful for Hallmark for a long time. And they have kind of made it their own, explored that kind of brand. We've seen it in terms of holiday films, we've seen it in terms of other kinds of films. This is just basically kind of a generic summer romance story, but I thought the performances were good. I thought the twists, while not completely unexpected, worked well for the story that was contained within. And I really like Carson in these lead roles. She was in another Netflix film at the end of last year, Carry On, which actually had Taron Egerton. So, we're just tying things together this week in the episode. So she seems to be in kind of a groove, making these films for Netflix every few months. And I have so far enjoyed what I've seen. This is going to be a great date night movie. I know they're pitching Together as the date night movie in theaters, and depending on the interests of you and your partner, that might work for a date night movie as well. But this is probably a more conventional date night type movie, and it is available to stream. The last of the streaming options and films that I want to talk about this week is probably one of the most unexpected, of projects, and that is they made a new version of War of the Worlds. It kind of unceremoniously dropped on Prime Video on Wednesday. And this is very much a 21st century modern take on War of the Worlds. The main focus here is William Radford, played by Ice Cube, and he is kind of a tech surveillance operator for the NSA. He spends a lot of time in his office watching, interacting with the outside world via cameras and surveillance networks and all of the electronic tools. This is a movie that feels like it could have very much been a COVID production where you have stars and you have sequences, but nobody is in the room or on the screen together. A lot of times they are operating in their own room through hacking, with an interspersed of live video that we see Eva Longoria is in here as a NASA scientist, popping up on video. Clark Gregg as an NSA director. Michael O'Neill plays the Secretary of Defense. Andrea Savage, an FBI field agent. Then Eman Benson and Henry Hunter Hall are William Bradford's children who are in different places. One of them, a scientist working in a lab. One of them, no surprise, a great hacker. So they kind of connect that way. We don't really see these characters sharing the screen together. They're not out from behind their screens at all. And you're wondering, how can this work? And I had some of the same kind of questions. It was a lot to get dropped into. It felt weird. It felt a little bit like that is why you didn't hear this advertised. You didn't see a lot about this film. It kind of dropped real quickly, but it is a quick watch. It's only 90 minutes with credits. The credits kick in probably about an hour and 23 minutes into it. So the action happens pretty fast. It is definitely an interesting approach to the material, especially we're probably all familiar with War of the Worlds by now. This is not the kind of War of the Worlds that I think H.G. Wells would have imagined when he wrote the novel, but it sort of works putting a 21st century twist on it. I wouldn't say the performances are dynamic, but there's not a lot for them to work off of. I know a lot of people are not going to like this, and I'm not going to say it was good. I'm giving it decidedly a thumbs neutral. So it's probably the lowest score of the week. Definitely is, because I gave Naked Gun a thumbs up. I gave Together a thumbs up. I gave mild thumbs up to She Rides Shotgun and to My Oxford Year. This one only a thumbs neutral, but it was a curious and sort of interesting watch. It was an interesting take on the material, and it moved at a good pace and held my attention. So that's not nothing when you're talking about making kind of streaming films. I don't think this is going to be for everyone, but if you're curious and you want to check it out, again, it is a very short commitment. This isn't like a 2.5 hour watching them do all this. There is some action. It was an interesting approach. Probably the more that I've thought about it after watching it, the more respect I have for it being kind of a big swing, taking really known IP and a really well-known story and doing it in a completely unique way. Not a great film, but definitely something interesting. Well, that'll do it for this week. I'll be back next week talking about Freakier Friday and Weapons, a couple of Also, big summer releases that have very little in common that are going into theaters. Another one of those kind of legacy sequel reboot types, and then an original horror film. So we are kind of getting to that point in time in the summer where you're going to see a lot of these kind of things as we wrap up the month of August. But we are finding some gems. So basically, to recap, if you're looking for something lighter and a little bit of comedy, the Naked Gun reboot, definitely worth checking out. If you're looking for a little something different, a little something scarier together, a very interesting horror film. We also have some interesting smaller films out there. She Rides Shotgun in theaters, My Oxford Year on Netflix, and War of the Worlds, a new take and new imagining on Prime Video. Well, that'll do it for me this week. I will be back next week. Until then, I'll see you guys at the movies.